Hey, Pat Rigsby here, and I want to talk with you about how to address the most common sales objections when it comes to selling personal training or selling fitness. Now, I'm going to warn you in advance that I approach this in a little bit different way, but I still want to talk about what we consider the most common objections that people will actually give you, but then I'm going to give you some context as to what those actually mean and how we can best address them. So, the first most common objection that we're going to hear is, I don't have the money. It's too expensive. The second is, I don't have the time, or maybe the schedule doesn't line up with when I'm available. And then the third is going to be a spousal objection. Hey, I need to talk to my husband. I need to talk to my wife about this. Now, I don't want to suggest that none of those are valid, but I want to give you some of the underlying things that are happening when those objections arise, because usually they're a symptom of something else. So basically, think about what happens when somebody comes in to see you on average. When somebody comes in to see you and they're talking with you about joining a training program, obviously they're probably not where they want to be physically, and it comes from a few reasons, right? I mean, they've not maybe been exercising consistently. Maybe they've not been eating well. Maybe they've tried things in the past and failed. Maybe they've put on some weight from a different point in their life when they were in better shape. But for whatever reason, they're not successful right now. So the first thing that may be going through their mind isn't really about you. It may be, you know what, I don't want to spend the money to fail again, because failing already makes me feel foolish and it makes me feel bad about myself, but I also don't want to lose the money in the process. The second thing that's going through their mind during this whole journey, this sales process, is, they're going to essentially have to rearrange their life in so many ways that we as business owners don't often acknowledge. So think about what we ask of somebody. If somebody's going to come in and train with you 3 days a week, they're basically saying, okay, 150 times a year, I'm going to rearrange my schedule from what it is now. I'm going to get up an hour earlier, or I'm going to come here after work and get home an hour later. I'm going to ask maybe my spouse or my kids to rearrange some of their schedule, who's taking them somewhere, who's picking them up. I'm going to probably have to change just the way that I go about operating. Maybe who's fixing dinner, or who's fixing breakfast, or what time I'm getting ready for work, or some of these other variables that are my normal. And we know how much people resist change, but we're asking people to make that change to start, and then we're saying, okay, and then I want you to embrace these new habits. These things that are hard, they're challenging. Now, me as the business owner, they're easy for me. They're things that I've embraced, so I don't necessarily always have a lot of empathy for the person who doesn't embrace how physical exercise can make you feel, or how eating supportively can improve your quality of life. For the person that's been sedentary and the person who lives off fast food, this is a big shift, right? So we're asking them to change the way that they operate. And maybe they've been this way. Maybe they've had these same nutrition habits or activity habits for decades, maybe their entire life. And so we're saying, discard all that, change it, come in here. And by the way, we're going to bring you into an environment where, the prospect probably feels a little bit like, hey, I'm going to be the worst person in the room at this stuff. See, a lot of times somebody will talk with you and they'll say, you know what, I need to get in shape and come see you. And us as a professional, we're saying, well, that's what we do. We help you get in shape. Don't you understand? But they're not being disingenuous. What they're saying is, I want to get in good enough shape so that I'm not embarrassed when I come in there. So I'm not the worst person in the room at everything. So we're asking them to do all this, and then we're also saying, come into this unfamiliar environment where you don't really know too many people, if anybody, and they all probably are a little bit ahead of you because they've been here, so they know what to do. They even if they're not in shape, they know how things work. They know the routine. And finally, we ask them to pay for the privilege of all these things. So when somebody says, hey, it's money, it's time, it's a spouse, there are all those other underlying things going through their head. And so they may be saying to you, well, this is kind of expensive considering I don't know if I'm going to be good at this, and it's a lot of change and a lot to add to my plate. That's a lot of money for me to spend when I don't have a lot of confidence that I'm going to be successful. Or when they say they don't have time, I mean, everybody perceives themselves as busy. What they're saying is, I don't know if I'm willing to rearrange my schedule for something that I may fail at. And then third, if they say, hey, I need to talk to my spouse, they may be just saying, look, you know what? I need to have somebody to talk to about this logically because right now I'm emotional and I don't want to be where I'm at. I don't want to feel the way that I feel. And so I need to talk to somebody else to make sure I'm making a good decision. And I'm not ready. I can feel myself kind of being sucked into this right now, and I'm not ready to make a commitment. So they're kind of my lifeline over here. It's not, I mean, their spouse isn't looking for them to fail. They don't want them to start something and struggle again, but maybe they've seen in the past that, hey, you join this gym every New Year's and then you don't go. Or you start this new diet or new nutrition program and you drop off within a week. So they want to go to their spouse and not be either impulsive and make a decision that both of them are now going to have to deal with because they are probably asking for something of the spouse, some changes and some commitments. Or they're saying, look, I don't want my spouse to give me a hard time for spending money on something that I've not done a good job with before. So when they're saying these things, when they're giving you these objections, 9 times out of 10, that's what the underlying kind of rationale is. And then the other time out of 10 is they just don't want to buy and they just don't have the courage or confidence to tell you they don't want to buy. So it's easier to default to an excuse. Now, with that being said, how do we address the underlying objection where they bring this up? The first thing that we can do is build a lot of value in overcoming the things that we know are happening internally for them, helping them understand how this is going to be better for them than the things they've tried in the past. How we can address the things that maybe weren't addressed in the past when they struggled. Maybe it's accountability. Maybe it's a consistency factor. Maybe it's building a habit-based approach to nutrition rather than deprivation-based. But whatever they've done in the past, you could simply ask them, well, what do you think has to change for you to get where you want to go? And if you can address the things that they think need to change, now we've lowered those defenses. We've lowered those internal objections, not just the verbalized ones. And then the other thing that we need to do is help them understand that the commitment that we're asking for, we're going to match. We're going to more than match. Not only are they committing time and effort and money, but in turn, we're going to commit expertise and accountability and motivation. And we're going to give them our experience over time. We're going to give them the quickest, simplest, safest, most direct path to where they want to go. And if we can make that clear up front, and if we can make sure that they understand that this is about them, they're not just becoming us, we're now invested in them. We're their coach. They're not just one more face in the crowd. If we can do that, then these symptomatic or kind of typical verbalized objections rarely surface. Now, if we want to do a little bit more prevention up front with those, we can talk to them about money, we can talk to them about their schedule, and we can talk to them as to whether or not they have a support system around them already before we ever present our program. So we've already addressed these things and we can refer back to it if they come up later in the conversation. And then finally, if we want to address those things specifically, when it comes to money, we can always find a way to meet them closer to where they are budgetarily if we choose. We can offer some sort of program at a lower price point or at a lower type of financial risk by offering a money-back guarantee if the risk of losing the money without gaining the result is the concern. So we can always use a tool or a lever like a lower price program, a downsell, or some sort of risk-free guarantee. When it comes to time, ultimately we probably have to show them how we're saving them time by narrowing the choices they're going to have to make, by giving them the most specific, customized, direct path to their goals, and how that is going to be so much more efficient than just taking a random approach to exercise, health, and fitness. And then finally, when it comes to a spousal concern, I would not ever want to say, hey, you know what, don't consult with your spouse. Don't be confrontational about that, because ultimately they need this spouse to be their support system. They need these people in their lives to help them. So, just say, sure, you know what, would you like to talk with them, and then we'll reconnect tomorrow at noon. We'll reconnect tomorrow at 5. Let them talk to their spouse and then schedule the follow-up appointment. Anytime you're going to let somebody walk away and think about it for whatever reason, you want that set time to follow up with them so that they've got some constraints as to what they're thinking about. Now, I'll tell you, if they walk away and they have to think about it and come back, sure, the closing percentage may not be as high as if they're deciding in the moment, but the reality is that person will have made a more informed, more thoughtful decision, and they're going to be less likely to flake on you. They're going to be less likely to turn around and cancel 24 hours later, and they're probably going to be more likely to stick around and be a great long-term client. So when it comes to addressing objections, you need to dig a little bit deeper. The things that they're telling you are the surface level stuff. They're usually not the obstacles that are preventing this person from taking a move forward and starting to work with you. So dig a little bit deeper, address those underlying concerns, and you're going to see the closing percentage that you had to get new clients go up, and you're going to see these clients come in a much better frame of mind. Thanks for watching. If you click the first link in either the description or the link in the pinned comment, you can get my latest book, The Ideal Business Formula, for free. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button for me. If you have any questions or comments or video requests, leave me a comment below and I'll be quick to respond. And lastly, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm posting videos weekly now, and if you turn your notification bell on, you'll be sure to get them all.